Hi everyone. In this video, we'll look at how to read the next generation science standards. It's important as an instructional coach or administrator that you're able to break down the performance expectations into the three different components. So let's get started. The first thing you'll need to understand is how to read the coding for the standards. So the one we're going to look at today is 5-PS1-1 matter and its interactions. So the first number that's indicated here tells you the grade. So the example we're going to look at today is from 5th grade. Next, you'll see a series of 2 or 3 letters followed by a number. That indicates the disciplinary core idea. So for this example, this is coming from the physical science subcategory, and the 1 indicates its matter and its interactions. There are actually subcategories below that, 1A, 1B, 1C, but those are used for high school courses typically, not so much at the middle and elementary levels. The last thing you'll see is a number after the dash. That indicates the performance expectation. So for 5th grade in physical science, we are going to look at the first performance expectation. Most grades and most performance expectations, there's more than one for the particular disciplinary core idea. So let's actually jump into and look at the example of this performance expectation, what it says. All right, so again, this is 5th grade physical science, matter and its interactions, and this is the first performance expectation. The performance expectations are great because basically you can kind of think about this as this is what students should know and understand, be able to do by the end of the unit that they're working on. So here's an example. It says students should be able to develop a model to describe that matter is made up of particles too small to be seen. You should already be familiar with the 3 dimensions of the NGS framework. If you're not, I refer you back to that previous video, but we're going to break those down here. So remember, we have our disciplinary core ideas, our science and engineering practices, and our cross-cutting concepts. Each of those are actually embedded in here, and I'm going to show you here, and actually on the NGS website, there's color coding that helps these stand out. So teachers are most familiar with these disciplinary core ideas, so oftentimes they'll be able to pick that out first. And so here's that highlighted in orange. So kind of the main concept that students are going to be working on for this performance expectation is labeled here in orange. Matter is made up of particles. So you can see how that's just one component of this performance expectation. The next thing teachers will be most familiar with are the science and engineering practices. And so I'm going to show you that here in blue. Right? So developing a model. So developing and using models is one of the 8 science and engineering practices that teachers should be using in their instruction. And so you can see how that clearly connects and is shown here in this performance expectation. Lastly, we have the cross-cutting concepts. Again, those sometimes teachers will take a little longer to work on and get used to, but they are specifically addressed in the performance expectations, as you can see here, that the particles are too small to be seen. And that comes from the cross-cutting concept on scale, proportion, and quantity. So you can really see that with the performance expectations, it's critical that teachers are incorporating all 3 of these dimensions of the framework while they're teaching this standard or this performance expectation. And if they're not, they're going to kind of miss the mark in terms of what students need to know and be able to do by the end of the unit. Here's just another picture of kind of what it looks like on the NGSS website. You can see the heading here. Here is the code that goes with it. When you initially come in, this will be all in black. So if you clicked on black and white here, it would be all in black. I like to click on this last link here, practices and cross-cutting concepts. That's where you get this different color coding, and you can see how the colors coincide for the science and engineering practices here, and then it actually has a description of with this one, developing and using models and what that should be in the grade bands 3 through 5. Cross-cutting concepts, same thing. It describes scale, proportion, and quantity for grades 3 through 5. And then the disciplinary core idea is expanded upon here. So if there's any question, they can come down here to get further information. Also, after each performance expectation, there's oftentimes clarification statements that give examples of that should or should not be included, as well as assessment boundaries. And what should be included in assessments. That's not only just for classroom teachers, but also with the idea that larger scale assessments would be written based off of these standards. And so these were clearly delineated per performance expectation. But it's also helpful for districts in terms of if you're going to create common assessments, those are good to know. Even for teachers, just to know like kind of where's the upper end or what of what should be on an assessment for this performance expectation. Hope you found this helpful. And as always, reach out if you have any questions.